What's poppin', Who Dat Nation? I hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend. My name is Trace Jard, and welcome into today's show. I'm going to be breaking down some Saints cut candidates because right now, you got about 85 people on the roster. You have a 90-man roster up to, but then by week one, you got to be down to 53 guys. So you got to cut some plays. You got to move on from some guys, and I'm going to break down a few players that I think are on the bubble of getting cut or at risk of getting cut by the New Orleans Saints. Before we get into that, though, we are on the road to 15,000 subscribers. We are currently at 14,289. We have about 711, Slurpees, those are good, 711 subs away from getting to 15K. So I hope you guys can lock us in, turn on your notifications, and subscribe, because honestly, I'm getting as red as this graphic right here because I'm just cracking up, trying not to crack up because producer Seeps is in my ear making me laugh. But guys, subscribe. On all seriousness, Saints news, rumors, updates, and a lot of fun and interactive content. All right, so first cut candidate that we got to talk about, Tre'Quan Smith. This is just an obvious one. This is a gimme. You know, you could have probably guessed that he was going to be on this guy or on this list. The wide receiver room is loaded. Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, Rashid Shaheed. Dog, and dog. You also got A.T. Perry, who you drafted in the 6th round. You also signed Bryan Edwards. You got Keith Kirkwood, Kirk Merritt, Kawaan Baker. You brought in Malik Flowers, the kick return specialist, as a UDFA. You got Cy Barnett, and then Shaq Davis as well on that depth chart. And I think that Bryan Edwards is going to be the guy that gives him the most trouble. So just to kind of lay the scene right here, we're talking Tre'Quan Smith's 2022 stats and Bryan Edwards' 2021 stats, because in 2021, Bryan Edwards played with Atlanta. He only had 3 receptions for 15 yards. Didn't really get a ton of usage. So we just wanted to give you guys what it looks like on a whole season. So here's how they compared. In 19 receptions compared to 34 receptions. 278 yards to 571. 1 touchdown to 3. 14.6 yards per catch to just under 17. And where Tre'Quan Smith's biggest redeeming quality is he's a great run blocker. That being said, Bryan Edwards had a higher PFF grade. And then even in 2020, Bryan Edwards had an 86.9 run blocking PFF grade. So again, I think that Bryan Edwards is going to be the guy who ultimately is battling Tre'Quan Smith for that roster spot. So I need you to cut one. Put yourself in the shoes of Dennis Allen. Type TS for Tre'Quan Smith. Type BE for Bryan Edwards. This is going to be the pinned comment, so if you get hit with the YouTube ad break, take advantage of it. Scroll on down, share your thoughts, scroll on back up, and we'll be playing for you. All right, so the next one, Miller Forristall. He's a tight end on the roster. Didn't do really anything last year. He was with the Browns last season. He only got 1 target. He dropped it. 0 receptions, no yards, obviously. The big news is, Foster Moreau. Foster Moreau was signed by the New Orleans Saints just a few days ago. Great move. Very, very big news. Very, very big addition to the Saints locker room, as well as a massive position of need Foster Moreau addressed a massive position of need, And then you also have Taysom Hill on the roster. He's going to make it. He's just a flex player as a whole. Lucas Kroll, your UDFA out of Pitt from last year. Joel Wilson. These are all guys that, I think have a I would say have a better chance than Miller Forristall. And then in terms of Derek Carr's starting tight ends, I do think that they're going to bring a couple tight ends in, because Derek Carr loves using his tight ends. Even when he was with Vegas and in Oakland, he loved having Darren Waller and Foster Moreau as his 1-2 punch right there. And so in terms of how these guys are going to line up together, you got Juwan Johnson, who on 65 receptions had 42 receptions, 508 yards, 7 touchdowns, 12.1 yards per catch, and 25 first downs. Over half of his receptions were touchdowns or first downs. And then in the same with Foster Moreau, 33 receptions on 54 targets, 420 yards, 2 touchdowns, 12.7 yards per catch, and 24 first downs. You're looking at that. That's 26 out of 33 receptions were meaningful. They had extended drives or completed the drive. And I think that that's huge, and I think that that is a wildly underrated thing when we're talking about Foster Moreau and Juwan Johnson. But guys, if you want a shout out on tomorrow's video, I need you to hit me up on Twitter at TraceGerard48. DM me, stay golden. You know, that's my tag. I say it at the end of every video. I need you to go and DM me, stay golden, and I promise you, if we get, 10, 20 people, I'll shout every single one of you guys out. I promise you that. You just got to hit me up at TraceGerard48. And heck, I'll even give you a follow back on Twitter as well. All right, so Payton Turner, he is the defensive end. It's just, man, it's been a disappointment. He was a first-round pick out of Houston. And, if these were your stats for a season, I'd say it's pretty impressive. Is it not impressive, producer Seeps? I would say that that's pretty damn good. But that's over his career in just 13 games. That's not good. 28 tackles, 8 tackles for a loss, 3 sacks, and just 6 quarterback hits. This guy was a first-round pick. And you know what they did? You know what the Saints did this year? They went and addressed that defensive line because I have a very strong belief that Payton Turner might be on the way out. You added Brian Brzee. You drafted Isaiah Foskey. You brought in Jerron Cage as a UDFA. I just don't know if Payton Turner is going to make the roster. And I have a few more thoughts to get to on Payton Turner, but I also have to give some credit and give a shout out to my guy, Brian Brzee, for, being just a dog. Just being an absolute baller, being a grinder. He's going to come in, and he's going to be such a force to be reckoned with on this Saints defensive line, as well as Isaiah Foskey, as well as this guy, Chris Olave, Tyrann Mathieu. Do you see what I'm doing here? You see what I'm trying to have some fun with this little ad read for you. But, guys, get your Saints jerseys. We got men's. We got women's. We got all sorts of colors, all sorts of players. Chatsports.com/Saints jerseys. That's where I got my jersey. Look how fresh. Look how clean. It's Nike. It's legit. It's authentic. Go get geared up just like I did. Chatsports.com/Saints jerseys. It will be in the comments section and in the description of today's video. All right, so my take as a whole on Payton Turner, just to kind of round out my thoughts on him. He's very, very close to reaching a bust status. I wouldn't say he's hit it yet. I'm just gonna give him a little bit more leeway. He's been hurt. He has injury issues, and I'm not saying that he gets to use that as a pass or as a get-out-of-jail-free card, but what I will say is if you're the number 28th overall pick, you got to have better production, and you got to be on the field a little bit more. So we'll see how he pans out. If he has a good training camp, if he has a good offseason, he could probably make the roster just honestly solely on the fact that he is a first-round pick, and he has that status with him. But I definitely think that he is a player that is at risk of not being on the Saints roster this year. Smoke Monday. I know a lot of y'all are not going to like this. I personally don't like this. Just for the record, I don't like it either. I want Smoke Monday to work out. Best name in football. I want it to work out so bad. The UDFA out of Auburn is just in a pretty good depth chart. He's in a good safety room. Tyrann Mathieu, we know what he is. He's an absolute legend. He is a Saints just leader through and through. He is a phenomenal football player and a great leader. Marcus May, he plays pretty damn good football. Last year, kind of had a little bit of a step back, but he still was able to produce. Jonathan Abram, you brought him in free agency. You have JT Gray, and then you drafted Jordan Howden in the 2023 NFL draft. And so why we might say no smoke is because he spent all last season on the Saints IR due to a torn ACL. He was on the practice. He was going to be a practice squad guy more than likely anyway. It just stinks, man. I want Smoke Monday to work out. But like I said, you invested in the 5th round at pick number 146 in Jordan Howden out of Minnesota. And last year he put up some pretty good numbers for the Golden Gophers. Goodness gracious, Seeps. 58 tackles, 5 pass breakups, and 2 interceptions. I mean, my thing about this is I would love Smoke Monday to work out. Do not get me wrong. I think he obviously, and I definitely think that he deserves a chance to prove who he is and that he can be a quality NFL player. I just don't know if it's going to be with the Saints roster. You're in a loaded room, and you got to make some cuts somewhere. I just don't know if the Saints are going to bring Smoke Monday back. Again, I would love for it to work out. I just don't know. All right. In terms of the last player and the last cut candidate, it's running back Eno Benjamin. And similar to Smoke Monday, he's just in a loaded room. He's just in a very, very busy depth chart. And I just think that he has some competition. You drafted Kendre Miller in the third round. You brought in Jamal Williams in free agency. Alvin Kamara obviously could be missing some time due to a suspension. Dwayne Washington, he has special teams value, and he has a lot of it, and there's continuity there. So I think that he's going to make the roster. So Roderick Thompson, the Texas Tech running back that was a UDFA, it just, again, you have a loaded room. And I just want to throw this graphic up. It's just so cool. And I think that this is what we have to start calling them, the Holy Trinity. You have the Holy Trinity when it comes to cooking food. You know what it is. It's onion, it's celery, and green bell peppers. This is the Holy Trinity. It's your recipe for success. You got to have it work out. It is a failure's not an option. It's just there's a no fail clause in this Holy Trinity room. You have a quality three running back punch. And honestly, Eno Benjamin just didn't do a ton with the Saints. He was on 3 different teams last year, only had 4 carries anyway, 13 yards, 1 reception for 9 yards. You see what I'm saying? It's not that he's a bad football player, and that's not the case for any of these guys. They're not bad players. I mean, maybe Payton Turner's just a little bit of a bust, but it's just there's a lot of talent and there's a lot of depth on this team, and that's a good problem to have. And so it's going to make it very competitive. But guys, which Saints player are you most excited to watch in 2023? Are you most excited to watch DC? Are you excited to see Rashid Shaheed get a full season of some love? You pumped to see Foster Moreau in the black and gold? What about Chris Olave? He's going to take a step this year, in my opinion. Tyrann Mathieu, he's back, baby. You got Jamal Williams. Wham, bam, thank you, Cam. Maybe it's even a guy like Marshawn Lattimore, who we barely got to see last year. Let me know who you are most excited to watch, and I hope you've had a wonderful weekend. We'll be back tomorrow with more content, more Saints news and rumors. So be sure to hit me up on Twitter. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like this video. And most importantly, y'all stay golden. We'll see you tomorrow.